Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in another of our Teletown Hall series of celebrating diverse voices. We've got a couple of great people for you to hear from today. Just a reminder, you can submit questions via the chat box, and you'll find that on the far right-hand side of your screen. My colleague Bernard Parker will be monitoring those questions, and once I have a short visit with these ladies, then we'll open up to your questions. But today I'm really, really excited to have two fabulous ladies who I just love both of them. Alexis Wiley, founder and principal of Moment Strategies, and Sommer Woods, owner and chief architect of Solution Architects and a partner at Woods Watts Effect. Our entrepreneurs, they're both entrepreneurs with backgrounds in news media, government, corporate, community relations. So we're going to have a really exciting discussion because they have had so many lives as they've gone through their career, and now they're both entrepreneurs. So it should be a really, really interesting conversation. So thank you for being with us. And let me just kick this off and go to you ladies. And let me ask a question that both of you could provide some great feedback on. So, as entrepreneurs, both of you continue to work on such interesting things. Catch up our audience on what you're up to today.
Oh man, I appreciate that. Right, it's like it's a lot. So when you're an entrepreneur, you're in constant hustle mode, right? Trying to build business, maintain business. But definitely excited with the new venture. I first got into entrepreneurship in 2006, right after Super Bowl, and back in it full time. And so working on a very excited project with my client Intersport, kind of getting back into the sports space, working on an event called the John Shippen, which is an opportunity to elevate the conversation about Black men and women in golf. So that's the main thing is Woods and Watts Effect. Working with my business partner and trying to have a little bit better conversation about equity and inclusion nowadays.
Excellent.
So for me, I was at the city for almost 7 years, and I left in November after having my daughter. She's 8 months old now, and I felt like it was really a perfect time to start my own business and get a chance to see, how I could take everything that I've learned between media and government and community relations and really package it all together to really help people navigate all different kinds of moments, of situations, of companies thinking about coming to Detroit. How do you do it the right way? How do you make sure that people are engaged? Those are things that I'm really passionate about. And in the meantime of thinking about how to do this, the mayor said, hey, would you run my reelection campaign as you think about how to do this? So that is one thing that is taking a lot of my time right now. But in the meantime, I've been really thinking about what does it mean to build this? What are the ways that I can really make sure that I'm engaging and serving in the community? And I'm really excited because it's gotten off to a really great start.
That's excellent. So because you are both successful entrepreneurs in a city that has many great innovators who play such an important role in what our city's transformation has been about, what do you believe, or how do you think the status of our entrepreneurship ecosystem is doing in the city?
Well, I think Detroit has a very, just metropolitan Detroit has such a beautiful reflection of just different businesses. That's one of the things that I've loved, even when I've worked inside of different organizations and even as a full-time entrepreneur now, but I've been an entrepreneur off and on since 2006, that I always love the ability to tap into so many different talented business owners here. If it's from providing cupcakes from a Good Cakes and Bakes all the way down to Passion Management that's doing production, you're able to just tap into so many different resources and people that's one of the beautiful things about this market. But I do think obviously with, the interesting thing with COVID, and what I love seeing is how people have pivoted during this time to figure out, and I'm sure Alexis can speak to that as well about the pivot during COVID. I mean, that was one of the things that people were like, You want to go back full time in the middle of COVID. And the irony of it, I was like, oh, listen, this is when you're pressured to the diamonds to shine, right? So I do think that that's one of the beautiful things about the fabric of the city is we have so many talented entrepreneurs and business owners that hopefully for COVID, a lot of these businesses will be able to bounce back and to really come back into the fold of who we truly are.
I completely agree with what Sommer said. I think that really this is a time where entrepreneurs are being tested. Whether you have a brick and mortar shop where you've now kind of had to navigate, okay, how do I manage the new normal of COVID, right? But I think that really this moment has made people think through, what do I want to be next, right? Even people who are, in regular 9-to-5s who are thinking that, hey, this is a moment for me to pursue my passion. And I think when you think about all the different channels now, the fact that things have been so decentralized and we've all found new ways to do things, that presents tremendous opportunity for entrepreneurs and people who are just thinking about, how do I do this in a way that actually serves my better good, that actually goes to what I want to be building towards the future and what I want my life to look like. So I think this is, like, just as Sommer said, this is a tough time, but it's a really exciting one that people can take advantage of.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I've learned, when we take a look at COVID and then we compare it back to the recession. We have a lot of new business openings happening, which is really great. And I think it speaks to what I think, Sommer, you said about the ability to pivot, the resilience of our small business community here. I think that's probably one of the greatest things we have in our city. I think you both have worked in areas where you've seen that resilience. So I'd love to hear from both of you, your perspective on the city's resilience.
Ever since I went to school in Mercy High School out in Farmington Hills. So we just loaded on a cheese bus and went from Detroit to Farmington Hills. And even during that time, as Detroiters, we always stood firm, right? We always represented where we came from. We represented what that is. But even when you look at us as a region, right? When you look at who we are and what that looks like, there's been a lot of times here in our state that we've had a lot of challenges that we've been able to bounce back from. But that resiliency is something that I truly hang my hat on. I mean, I'm always, anybody who knows me, I always speak specifically to the D, right? Because the D has always been the underdog. Even when I was in high school, when people didn't necessarily think that Detroit was sexy, when I went to Talladega in Alabama and everybody was like, ooh, Detroit, what's going on? Because of what the media and how they portrayed us. And so that, that's one of the things that I do love about being specifically from the 313, as we always say, is that resiliency is what makes us so beautiful and so dynamic, that even when people end up coming back and they say, oh my God, Detroit is so great, we're like, no, we've been great. It's not the new like we've been here. That level of resiliency and that level of pride, I do think is what takes us to the next level when you hear the passion and talking to people. That is truly one of the things about Detroit. I think is the resiliency that is reflective of passion.
I completely agree with that. I think one thing that I have been so happy to see and so blessed to see is that the minute I said that I was stepping out to do my own thing, the number of people who called me and said, hey, Alexis, there's an opportunity here, or Alexis, have you thought about that? That tells me what it was. It made me feel good doing something that felt risky, but knowing that there was a really ecosystem of people who wanted me to be successful. And I think that is something that we all have to make sure that we're paying forward, is saying, how can I help others? And when you think about the resiliency in this moment, I just really quickly, the owner of Good Cakes and Bakes, April Anderson, she's amazing, right? And I was talking to her one day, and she was telling me that one of the things that came out of the pandemic for her was that she began doing this really online business of not just relying on her brick and mortar bakeries, but she's selling online and shipping her products across the country. So she's got really a factory that she's running right on Livernois, right? And that's really taking advantage of, looking at, okay, what are the opportunities here? And how can I use technology and the new normal, the social media as a way to connect with more people, so that really your boundaries are far, the boundaries that we thought we have, we don't have as much anymore. So just taking advantage of that, I think, and seeing other businesses locally do that has been huge.
And
Yeah.
one of the things, just to your point, Alexis, about the ecosystem, like that is true. Like I had literally people send me a sweatshirt. Ryan knows I'm an AKA, and Ryan English, she sent me a pink and green, sweatshirt, minding my Black-owned business, right? Just random things of people just supporting, rooting you on. I mean, Alexis, you are so right. The phone calls I've received, the emails, have you looked at this RFP? How can I assist? And it is that level of the not only is it the resiliency, but it's also like we're like a little small country town, right? Like it's people kind of, you know what I mean? Like it feels very, very familiar, but even within that level of success truly is beautiful because, Alexis, I haven't done a lot of marketing yet to say, hey, this is what we're doing. We've done a little bit, but those opportunities have strongly come off of relationships and people wanting to see us succeed, for sure.
Well, you may not have done a lot of marketing, but I did get my postcard, Sommer.
And did you get the cookie from Good Cakes and Bakes?
So Sommer, your leadership was on full display on election day down at the TCF Center when a crowd of irate protesters wanted inside to challenge or stop the count. What was going through your mind when you stepped up to talk to them?
Well, it's so funny. I mean, Tammy, you probably know me a little bit better than Alexis in this space because we worked together on different stuff. So for me, it was logistics mode. Like, what's going on? Why we can't have this? We gotta have some order. But then really when I stepped back, it was more of it was a reflection that I was very blessed to be able to have the skill set to be there at that moment. Like I wasn't literally supposed to be there at that time at that moment. I was supposed to be somewhere else at TCF. And so just being able to be there was a blessing because I knew at that time what the energy was, what it was percolating to be, right? That it was, people were looking to be agitators and what that is. And so for me, it was a matter of how do you protect the people that are literally in here doing the work, that are trying to make sure the democracy is being upheld. So for me, it was really trying to protect my community within that space to make sure, that things didn't pop off, as we like to say, because it could have really been a bad situation. And I think January 6th showed us that in DC. You know what I mean? It showed us that it could have totally gone a different way. And even for me, even watching some of that from January, it was hard for me to watch that because it took me back like, wow, this could have really been a tragic moment in our city. And so what a blessing for not just myself, the team, but everybody who was working there that really stood our grounds to make sure that we were a part of democracy.
Well, thank you very much for doing that. It was a bold move. I'm glad you just jumped into that logistics mode because it was really important. And Alexis, you'd been in TV news for 10 years and had just signed a new contract at Fox 2 when you left to go work with our newly elected Mayor Duggan. What made you leave TV to go into a completely different industry, especially government?
Yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me that throughout the years, and I tell them, for one, like, I loved Fox 2. It was a great place to work. All my friends were there. It was, it welcomed me into Michigan. I appreciated it. But really, I think a few years earlier, I had been working in Columbus. It was 2008, and I was a reporter there, and the economy was crashing. And they basically, at the time, marched all the staff in and were like, all right, everybody, you're going to take massive pay cuts, and your job is going to get harder, and you're going to do all these things. And at that time, I saw reporters and people who I just had so much respect for and were so amazing at their craft be in these positions where they were kind of like, look, I got a mortgage, I got kids, I've got to take this, right? And I knew the company wasn't doing people right. And they came to me with that. And at that time, I was 20 something with just a Volkswagen and a lease. And I was able to say, look, I don't want this. So I didn't take it. I hopped in my car and drove back to LA, which is where I was from, and was able to kind of rely on my family for a little bit. But at that time, it told me I never wanted to be in a position where I felt like this was all I had, right? That at any moment the rug could be pulled out from under me because, and that I would rely too much on one industry, one skill set, because it was all I'd ever done. And I had said back then, I said, if I get an opportunity to learn something else and to specialize and to expand myself, I'm going to take it. And then years later, I ended up going to Fox 2. It was great. And then when the mayor came with the opportunity to join the administration as spokesperson, I was like, well, I guess this is my shot to go into something that I think is really impactful and really interesting, and to see if I could do it and to see what I could learn. And for me, that made the difference. And that's always been my viewpoint, is just how can I diversify myself so much so that I've got a hand here, and can provide myself a little bit more of that, I guess, really security in ways that I could pivot as things continue. So that was really, for me, why I made that shift.
So I want to go back for a second, something that you said, Sommer, when you were talking about TCF in January 6th, and there's just been so much happening. COVID has shown how much leadership and government matters, but clearly we're in a very polarized time, and trust in government seems to be at an all-time low. How do we help people see the value of government and leadership to help them better understand how it can impact and improve their daily lives?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a constant struggle, right? It's to really connect the dots. And one of the things I know that even in the light of what's going on with the trial that happened yesterday, but it's an example of when you are active within local government, how it can work out in a way that it needs to work out. And so, shout out to the Attorney General, Detroit representing Ellison, that basically the prosecutor, right, in terms of being the prosecutor there for the state, but that position of voting for him, right, having him at the table, that case went a whole different direction because of the presence of him being in an elected position that was elected by the people. And so when the people are a part of it, you're able to see how some things could happen. Now, obviously, that is not, what we saw was the accountability, but hopefully what we would like to see is that there is a change that changes a system. And so when you're talking about a system change, you have to have the right people at the table in order to change the system. And so when we do step up, when we do vote, when we are a part of this election process, you start to see government work for people that a lot of times have felt marginalized, for some people that necessarily have not had a voice at the table, but most importantly, you're having different perspectives of people at the table. It's not just the same people, it's not the same thought process, it's not the same political party, but hopefully that is an opportunity for us to see that when we are involved and we are that level of accountability, maybe there's some trust that can come in there when you see things happening when you put your vote and participation into the process.
Oh, that's spoken very well, Sommer. I have been going on with you two, and I'm not letting Bernard get in here. So Bernard, why don't you come in with some questions from those folks who are attending today?
Okay. So we've touched on communication, leadership, equity and inclusion. You all have given some nuggets, if you will, on life's key lessons, even some entrepreneurship nuggets, if you will, to the audience. So Lisa Lunsford is a board of director for the chamber, right? In fact, she's CEO for Global Strategic Supply Solutions. And what she said is this. She said, "Sticks and stones may break my bones. Not what you call me, but it's what I answer to," right? You all have both talked about your professional stance in the world, but who are you really as two intelligent, phenomenal awesome women who happen to be African American. Tell me about yourself.
That's a deep question. That's just
Uh-huh.
like just really deep. Okay, who are you really? I think that I am someone who I've always wanted to do something that was good. I wanted to try to make a positive impact. I wanted to improve lives. As a reporter, one thing I loved was always hearing people's stories, and that the power you had by telling those stories and being able to help in some way. And I felt like by going into government, one, like I said, I'd also learned something, but you do get the opportunity to really help people. You get the opportunity to craft something to make an impact. So I'd like to say that I'm someone who wants to do that. I am, I think a mom, and I want to, and not just a mom. I'm a Detroit mom, and I'm glad to. I'm hoping to raise my child here and continue to have an impact in this city, and be supported by this city. I mean, this has been really outside of Los Angeles, and I've lived a lot of different places. Detroit quickly felt like home because I had never been anywhere where I felt so welcomed and so cared for by so many people. And my hope is that I can pay that forward in some way, shape, or form. Never been perfect, but I've definitely always worked to try to do well. So I think that's the best way to answer it. I wasn't prepared as that you're going to go. I should have known talking to you. I should have known that was.
Yeah,
All right, Sommer, thumbs up.
yeah, no, I mean, for me, I always lead out by saying I'm unapologetically a Black woman. Wherever I am, I never turn that off. I believe in making communication to be as direct as possible, that we're able to not go through all the minutia, that we can just get to the point. I'm a proud mentor. I'm a proud mentor mom. I didn't have young people biologically, but I do have young people who are like my children. So I call myself a proud mentor mom and mom to many. I'm definitely someone who's rooted in community. So even through my entire career, I've had a beautiful village, just with my mother and my grandmother setting the tone, all the way down to being a product of seeing Black women entrepreneurs like my aunt, Sharon Mann, who taught me how to, sell T-shirts at the Africa World Festival
Yes.
when I was 12 years old. And so seeing it come full circle, for me is always being rooted in community, in those places and those spaces of community, is truly who I am. So I like to pride myself on being rooted in my community, and being an advocate of many.
So one of the things that someone posted on here isn't really a statement, but a question, but it's more of a statement. And the gentleman said that Detroit is he salutes you both, and Detroit is a lot better because you two are involved here and doing the work that you're doing.
Oh, thanks.
So, I love y'all dearly. So I got to turn it back over to Tammy, because one thing about Chamber is we time conscious. So
One thing I just want to say to that, I want to say thank you for that comment, but I really do believe Detroit is this, like, I think there are so many people who are constantly driving good things, whether it's on their block, whether it's in their neighborhood, on their job, as entrepreneurs. This is really a city where everybody wants to kind of dig deep and try to make a positive difference.
yes.
And I just think it's like Summer said, it's a beautiful village, and it's so great to have, and all of us have a role in that village, right?
Mhm.
And I think it's something that we should all be thinking about, especially in this pandemic moment. What do we do next, and what do we build? How do we build better, right? How do we build a better society, a better community, a better city that we all want to be part of?
My. Y'all gonna make us have church up in here. We
Let's
supposed to
pass
be
the plate. Let's pass the collection plate. Where's the collection plate?
That's so funny. Thank you so much, Bernard. So we've got some time. There's another question that I want to hear you both talk to that I think is important. You've both obviously taken risks in your career, whether it be, switching careers or joining a cause or a high profile project, what would you say to someone, a Detroiter, who is nervous about taking that big career risk?
I would say, the irony of it is when I look back at my career, it's been a lot of risk. When I worked on Super Bowl, my grandmother teased me at the time. She said, "You gonna leave your job that you have every day to do something that you know that's gonna end in 2 years?" And I told her, I said, if I can't get a job at the Super Bowl, God bless us all. You know what I'm trying to say? So I think that at the end of the day, how can we, when somebody is thinking about it, really to when you put work into your craft and when you do what's right to have the skill set, that's enough, right? That's enough to you have a resource of people who are here within this ecosystem that Alexis was talking about. Like there's a lot of different resources from Build Institute that Regina is now leading over there, from what the chamber is doing in terms of different sessions and workshops. Like there are resources that are out there for people to be able to tap into to figure out the best way to take the leap. But I definitely, I think a lot of it is believing in yourself. I would love, one of the things that we say, and I'll say in closing with our company, with Woods and Watts, but we have a saying where we work for a world where people can unapologetically show up for who they are. And so in that, right, if people know and believe and lead with that, then I do think that that's half the battle of being successful, to be able to take that risk. Because if you can't bet on yourself, then I don't know who you can bet on. A lot of us are fulfilling other people's dreams, and we have it in ourselves that we should be able to feed and build on our own dreams.
Alexis?
I think for me, one thing that I think is really critical is that people realize that it's okay to be afraid, and it's okay to do it afraid, right? It's okay to be totally terrified about what's next, but having a belief that you've done the preparation, that you are always going to put in the work. One thing I've always thought about was like, there may be things I didn't always know, but I knew I would always do the work. And if you do that, you can manage the fears and everything that come along, and recognize that when you're doing something completely new, you will stumble, things will happen, but it's all about how you get up after that. And don't allow the idea that everything has to be perfect, because I think we live in a world now where like people only post their best pictures. They only post their perfect videos. They don't tell you about the days that they are scared. They don't tell you about the days when things don't go right and they don't know what's next. Know that you'll have those, and it's absolutely okay. The only thing you got to do is continue to keep going, keep getting up, keep moving, and really make sure that you got a sense of what your North Star is, what's guiding you as you move, and keep track of that as you continue doing new things. And I think at the end of the day, it all turns out okay.
Yeah, and just to piggyback real quickly off of that, Alexis, even as it relates to just to keep going, keep moving. Like I started this journey in 2006, lesson learned, right? I was able to build and build. And so years later, when you just keep moving, you keep growing, and then you're able to prosper into a much bigger thing that you never even thought that you were capable of. But at least it's taking the journey and just to see it through, just to continue to get up and to move, as you said. That's a very good point.
All right, one quick last question from both of you. Tell us about the person who has had a major impact on you, and tell us how they have impacted your life.
Really?
You want to go first?
You can go. You can go.
Okay, so for me, this is easy. It's my mother. My mother is my best friend, and she is someone who taught me what it looks like to be a strong Black woman and an entrepreneur in a world where you don't have, where you may not feel like you have as much support. You may feel like you've got a lot of challenges, but to keep going. I mean, she's the one who taught me that, and really opened doors for me so that my sister and I could, we went to, she was able to help us with school and with all the different things that we were able to do because of her work and because of her ability to focus and stay the course. So my mom, hands down, is she's my person.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure both of y'all know. I mean, Jackie,
Yes.
Quella, as I like to call her. you know, to Alexis' point, you know, she definitely is my rock, has been since the beginning. You know, her and my grandmother, like the rock, even to this day, you know, with me getting it started and getting back into the entrepreneurship world and hustling and grinding, she's still making me food. She has my little prep boxes and things that she drops off. And I picked up a couple things at Target, you know, took my bike to Wheelhouse to get it tuned up. Like, not only is she supportive, but also she's so smart. Like, she's able, I can rely on her to help me with my business. That even as it relates to building my business, like, I'm excited that my mother is going to help me to be able to build my business as well. And so I just, you know, hands down, her level of just amazingness just is something that I love. And to this, you know, very day, I send her a text every now and then, like, you are so dope. I'm so happy that, you know, I was blessed that you are the vessel that brought me into this world. So absolutely my mother.
So God bless moms.
Absolutely.
So we are out of time. We could keep going for a long time. I know you know, for those watching, I've had the pleasure of working with both of these ladies for a lot of years, and I have such respect for them. But after today, I think I learned still so much more about each of you. And I think those who are watching and those who will watch later, because this will be posted on our website, will be very, very impressed by your comments. And thank you for all you do for the community, you know, for our state overall. You know, you make us very, very proud.
Well, and thank you for what you're doing with the chamber, and all the work, and hopefully, fingers crossed, there will be a policy conference.
Yes,
September.
right. That's right. That's right. Okay, thank you so much, ladies. I really appreciate it. And thank you, all of you who joined us today. I hope you enjoyed the program. And again, as I said, you will be able to see this or pass it on to a friend who couldn't see it today. It'll be on our website, detroitchamber.com. And you can look up the Celebrating Diverse Voices Teletown Hall series. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great afternoon.